Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
You ought to be embarrassed.
Yeah, sure.
You ought to be embarrassed.
I'm well.
You ought to be embarrassed.
How are you?
You ought to be embarrassed, son.
Sure,
you got
man.
me?
Well, that's your opinion.
You're an ass.
Yeah, you're very formal. Quite a gentleman, aren't you?
He says that he embellished his record. Look, embellishing is saying you got an A when you got an A minus. Lying is saying you graduated from a college you didn't even attend. And he shouldn't be in Congress. And they're going to go through the process and hopefully get him out. And but he shouldn't be there. And if he had any shame at all, he wouldn't be there.
Why did you make a point to say that, though? It was kind of out of your way to.
Well, he was standing right there in the aisle, shaking hands with everybody.
Did he respond to you?
He may have.
It's not the first time in history that I've been told to shut up and go to the back of the room, especially by people who come from a privileged background. And it's not going to be the last, and I'm never going to shut up and go to the back of the room. And I think it's reprehensible that the senator would say such a thing to me in the demeaning way he said. It wasn't very Mormon of him. That's what I...
Are you ready?
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Who else would it be? Oh, so it's been a while, and a lot of things went on this week, I guess. More balloons, as you know. And people just... in the government just losing their minds here. As you saw in the video here before the show started, you got George Santos here being talked down to by one of the more important Republicans, Mitt Romney. Not a good sign when somebody, in that caliber, says you don't belong here and, says things like that to you. And George Santos, of course, brushes it off like it means nothing. And of course it does, because, if it meant anything, he never would have told all the lies that he told. You know what I'm saying? He never would have done that if it meant anything to him at all. But I can imagine that, there's a lot of Republicans who probably don't think too much of him, George Santos, especially after they found out all the things that he said were lies. And, some of them were lies that even would insult Republicans, especially the Jewish Republicans. It's just, you can't do that and expect no backlash, which I think George, for some reason, thought there wouldn't be. Seeing how McCarthy there, the speaker, the House Speaker, seemed to think that keeping him, Santos, under his wing was a good idea because he'd get a guaranteed vote from Santos. But I think now he's starting to feel the heat too, and it's either that or he's playing us again. McCarthy. I think what's happening is he's telling the press today or yesterday, I guess, if there's any there's ethics investigation being done on George Santos, and he ain't saying they shouldn't be doing it. And the press is taking that as, oh well, I guess he's trying to say that if Santos is found ethically broken and has to step down, he wouldn't mind it. No, what I think is going on is the ethics investigation is probably not going to find a damn thing. They're probably going to let him go because McCarthy needs him. Worse than than him not being there. Worse than him having ethics problems. He can't have him not be there. So he needs Santos's support, and that, in my estimation, that means that the ethics investigation is not going to yield anything that's going to get rid of Santos out of his seat. Okay, that's my opinion. That's what I think is going to happen. I know everybody's all hyped up that, oh, this means the end of Santos. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing. All it means is that they're doing an investigation. Okay, whether or not they come back with anything, that's whoever's playing the game is going to decide that. And right now, the Republicans are in charge of Congress. Okay, and politics is in full play, even in investigations of House members. Okay, it's always that kind of a thing. So whatever people think they're going to find to get rid of Santos, it's not going to matter. Even if they find out the guy, is responsible for detonating nuclear weapons in Canada. Okay, I don't care what the problem is. They're not going to let him lose his seat. They're not going to do that. Okay. Republicans are crooked. They have influence in places that we don't even understand and how. Okay, and so I'm just saying, to everybody here watching, don't count your chickens before they hatch. People, don't count your chickens before they hatch. Okay, let this play out to the end, because Santos doesn't look like he's sweating at all about this. Okay, he don't seem to give two shits about the investigation. He's sure that there's not going to be anything done about himself. So when he's like that, you need to worry. Okay. But the idea that Mitt Romney, during the State of the Union speech, when they was going out to the floor, when he stopped and just told them that, it's like I said, that's quite a slap in the face. I mean, and it only shows the deteriorating problem in the Republican Party, because they keep putting in folks in the party that are basically crooked. Okay, and I guess there's only so much crooked that even some Republicans there can take. And George Santos, I think, was the straw for a lot of them, and they just don't want him around. But getting rid of him is going to be a whole other battle there. I mean, that's not going to be an overnight thing. Okay. But that party is fractured, and it's hopelessly so, that a guy like Santos can run, lie to everybody, okay, and then fool everybody into voting for him, which is what he did, And even though the people he represents in that district there in New York or whatever, even though they're pissed off at him for lying to them so much that they voted for him, they have no way of getting rid of him. Okay, so all I can say is, look, you folks out there that voted for him, I hope you learned something from this, because really, you can't just take a Republican by his word. It means nothing. Enough Republicans have ruined the integrity of that party now to make it seem like anything they tell you is a lie, and there's plenty of evidence to back that up. That what I just said. Okay, plenty. You can go back 60 years into that party, and you're going to find all kinds of friggin' shenanigans that went on in the GOP that they, to this day, have not answered to. And some of it will probably turn your stomach if you found out the real truth behind a lot of this stuff. And so, like I said, I feel like Santos is what Republicans are today. He is the picture of the GOP. And I know a lot of people aren't going to want me to say that or label him that way, but it's the truth, because he's not the only one that's pretty messed up in the head and crooked. Okay, there's a lot of them there that are, and it seems like the Republican voters are all happy to keep putting these folks back in there. The midterms didn't do much for getting rid of some of those animals that are there. So they basically just told us all that, hey, we like them, we want them back. And it's like, okay, so, you guys cry and bitch and moan when somebody like George Santos lies to your face about everything he said. But then when he's not there, you're likely just to go back out and vote for another one like him all over again. So you guys, your opinion, your thoughts, your take on this really is moot at this point, because it comes from terrible information you're getting from people who really aren't that intelligent. So so this other article here that I found online is about Turkey and the earthquake situation over there. Apparently they've arrested about 113 contractors for the way they built the buildings that fell. Okay, and I'm going to read this here to you. It's from The Independent, written by Martha McHardy, and titled "Turkey Issues 113 Building Arrest Warrants After Earthquake." The Turkish police have taken at least 12 people into custody since Monday. Officials in Turkey have issued 113 arrest warrants in connection with the construction of buildings that collapsed in Monday's earthquake. Turkish police have taken at least 12 people into custody since Monday, including building contractors, as the death toll from the earthquake that hit Turkey and Syria passed 33,000, with another 80,000 plus injured. More arrests are expected as the focus turns to who is to blame for the tragedy. Thousands of buildings collapsed during the earthquake, and questions have been raised about whether the natural disaster's impact was made worse by human failings. Experts have previously warned that many new buildings in Turkey were unsafe due to government corruption. Before the earthquake, amnesties for contractors who swerved building regulations were put in place in order to encourage a construction boom, including in earthquake-prone regions. Get out of there, you. Turkey's justice minister has vowed to punish anyone responsible and has established the, quote, earthquake crimes investigation, unquote, bureau. What in the hell are you? Get out of there. Jesus. Get out of there. Freaking cat. Sit still. So, that's it of the story. I don't know how to feel about about that. Yeah, if the buildings weren't made to specifications of safety, then yes, these people are responsible. But they also said that it was a government corruption. So are they going to go after people in the government to arrest for the buildings that fell too? Because if they're not, then this is selective cherry picking here just to protect people in the Turkish government here, so they don't have to get punished. So unless they're really serious about making people accountable to these buildings just falling down the way they did, then hey, what's the point, right? I mean, because if you're leaving the government people in there, then clearly you're not that interested in hitting the nail on the head, as it were. The thing of it is though, Turkey, I think for most of us, see Turkey, as not like really, what can I say, really having a good infrastructure in most of the country. And, you look at the area where the buildings collapse, it looks old. The buildings look like they were built in the 50s and stuff. I mean, so, the fact that that the areas look old, as it were, and as they are, and the buildings there fell, I don't think it should have been a surprise to anyone that happened. The buildings don't look like they're constructed with earthquake issues in mind. None of them. I mean, some of them are standing just as tall. They probably have some structural damage in there they don't see, but the ones that fell were probably the older buildings or something, and I don't see how it would have made much difference. What it is there's a lot of anger, in Turkey. The number of people that died is staggering. Okay, they want to blame somebody for something to do with this, and I suppose the contractors are an easy target. But I don't know if there's ever going to be anything done about it. Even though they're arrested, it doesn't mean that they're going to answer for anything that happened there. I mean, they're just going to be arrested to shut up the public, basically. Sacrificial lambs, if you will. But they're certainly not going to go after any government officials. I mean, you know, I don't see that happening either. So it's a sad situation that happened. But I think that you know what's happening here with the arrests it's just, I hate to say it, it's probably just a show, you know, for the people to keep them quiet as they try to rescue any survivors, or you know, and pull out more bodies. So, and there's this other story here from Huffington Post. It's entitled, "A research firm hired by Trump to prove 2020 election fraud came up empty," said the report. This is a firm hired by Trump, and they couldn't find any fraud. A research firm investigated Donald Trump's assertion that the presidential election was fraudulent, but its findings were suppressed because they had found nothing to support his claims, the Washington Post reported, citing the 4 sources familiar with the matter. The Berkeley Research Group, hired by former president's 2020 campaign, gathered a team of around a dozen people to look into alleged voter fraud and irregularities in 6 states, according to the Post. The team reportedly briefed Trump, his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and others on a conference call held in the last days of 2020, before Trump held a rally urging his supporters to march on the Capitol preceding the January 6, 2021 insurrection. The call reportedly became contentious, but the researchers had looked at everything, one source told the Post. Quote, "Literally anything you could think of, voter turnout anomalies, date of birth anomalies, whether dead people voted, if there was anything under the sun that could be thought of, they looked at it," unquote, the source said. As recently as Saturday morning, Trump has claimed that the 2020 presidential election was rigged or stolen from him, pushing various conspiracy theories about voting machines and election workers. He has made these claims even as dozens of lawsuits filed by Trump's campaign or his allies were tossed out for lack of evidence in the weeks after President Joe Biden's victory. Trump continued to make his claims throughout the House Select Committee's months-long investigation, which revealed that people close to Trump repeatedly tried to tell him there was no evidence of fraud. And apparently he made them despite knowing that a team of professional researchers he paid to try and find the evidence of fraud came up empty-handed. The Post's source added, quote, "Just like any election, there are always errors, omissions, and irregularities," unquote, but the person stressed that they were not nearly enough to sway the election. Quote, "It was nowhere close enough to what they wanted to prove," unquote, the source said, quote, "and it actually went in both directions," unquote. Which is what people have been saying, you know, since he made the claim that, you know, the election was stolen from him. Okay, yeah, every election is going to come up with, you know, with some ballots and stuff that, you know, look odd or something. But when he's sitting here talking about thousands and thousands of votes coming in, you know, you can't hide something like that without leaving a trail of crackers everywhere. I mean, you're going to find proof of something like that, especially in the scope that he's trying to lay out, that, you know, all these states were conspiring against him. I mean, come on, you cannot hold down I mean, look, you can't hide the fact that you stole documents out of the White House for very long before it gets out, okay? You know what I'm saying? So as odd as that would be to try, you know, Trump to try to steal documents and think that he's going to get away with it, that's the same, you know, odds and percentages that you would have to fight against in order to hide a huge scandal in the scope that Trump has been trying to lay out for the people here, for their entertainment, to suggest that they cheated against him, okay? There's no fucking way that could happen without leaving a paper trail. No way at all, okay? There's going to be people that are going to talk, especially the dummies that he had working for him. They're all going to save their own ass before they'll defend his. Okay, somebody would have talked, somebody would have came forward with evidence. Okay, you know, there would have been proof by now. So I think it's obvious to anyone, except for people who want to believe that he's telling the truth. It's obvious to anyone that Trump is lying. Okay, that he's lying about all that, and even Trump himself knows that he lost because they got him on record. They have him recorded saying that he knew he lost the election, but he wasn't going to give up. Okay, and the plan of him not giving up required that he go around and tell people that they stole the election from him. That was his plan, and that's still his plan. And every Republican that supports him is following lockstep behind Trump, doing the same damn thing he's doing. Okay, and it's just it's laughable. So everybody that he's trying to get to say, yeah, they cheated, they're all coming back saying, no, we can't find a damn thing. We can't. You know, we can't manufacture facts here without leaving trails. People are going to know. And so, you know, Trump is beating his head against the wall, trying to find some way out of the lie that he told. I mean, he told a big lie, okay, and now that lie has been coming back to haunt him here, and now he's wishing he never said it. But this is what happens when you put a madman in the White House, okay? You're going to end up with all kinds of shenanigans and all kinds of people falling on their sword, and you know, all these things, and adding up to everybody trying to hide a conspiracy here. And the conspiracy really is not that widespread. It's just Donald Trump lying about things and the people under him trying to back him up. Okay? People like Kerry Lake. You know, and hey, if they want to anchor themselves to a sinking ship here, that's their business. Okay? We shouldn't stop them. Because anybody that comes out and says that Trump is telling us the truth obviously deserves to go down with that ship. You know, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. So let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
Donald Trump is back. Angry, vengeful, ready to take back the White House and wreck America again. And who's going to stop him? These weaklings and losers? Business leaders? They'll bend the knee and write the checks. The press? Too many are just here for the show, ready to both sides America to death. The law? He'll ignore it, like he's always done. No, the only people who will stop Trump are Americans ready to put country over party, ready to put differences aside to save this country, ready to work, ready to fight, ready to stand up when he knocks America down. Because it's not about left and right. It's not about rich and poor, black or white. Like it's always been, the choice is simple. It's America or Trump.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Written by Molly Redden, entitled Corporations Gave Election Deniers a Last-Minute Surge of Campaign Cash. Fortune 500 companies and major trade groups provided a surge of cash to Senators Ted Budd and Mark Wayne Mullen in the final days of the midterms. The 170-plus Republican election deniers who were just elected to Congress had some crucial last-minute help according to a new analysis of corporate political donations. Large corporations and industry trade associations furnished them with more than $165,000 in the final few weeks of the 2022 midterm elections. The corporate influence watchdog Accountable.us found, showing that the corporate taboo against donating to politicians who embrace the quote-unquote big lie that the 2020 election was fraudulent has all but evaporated. Roughly $113,000 flowed to Ted Budd Republican, North Carolina, and Mark Wayne Mullen, Republican, Oklahoma, two victorious Senate candidates who have refused to acknowledge that Joe Biden won the 2020 presidential race. Mullen also accused Democrats of trying to steal the 2022 midterms. Together, they received dozens of corporate campaign donations from food and beverage conglomerates, finance, and fossil fuel companies. The scale of the funding marks a clearer reestablishment of corporate favor-seeking. In the immediate aftermath of the January 6, 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, many corporate political action committees suspended donations to Republicans who egged on the mob and voted against certifying the 2020 election. This latest analysis covers only contributions made in the final 3 weeks of the midterms, which did not have to be disclosed before the election, per federal reporting guidelines. Among the top givers were FedEx, Walmart, U.S. Bancorp, and Lowe's. The total amount that corporate America has donated to Republicans who support the big lie is far larger, some $67 million since the violent insurrection at the Capitol, accountable.us previously estimated. The top overall recipients were new Speaker Kevin McCarthy and Representative Steve Scalise from Louisiana, Sam Graves, Missouri, Jason Smith, Missouri, and Blaine Luetkheimer, Missouri. A separate analysis by Open Secrets determined the top donors to election deniers were the National Association of Realtors, the National Beer Wholesalers Association, the National Auto Dealers Association, the American Bankers Association, and American Crystal Sugar. Yeah. So, yeah, you see the Republicans, getting, corporate. I mean, it's really not anything surprising, I guess you could say, because we all knew that corporate America, stands behind Republicans. And the fact that they're selecting people to donate to that really are not on the side of American citizens is not a surprise either. But it does show in this little report here who is donating money to these people. And we're not talking about small companies here. These are big companies that people use on a daily basis, and when people sit there and say, well, why don't we boycott these companies and why don't we do this and that? It's like, well, Jesus, I mean, in order to actually boycott companies and industries that are donating to the Republican Party, you'd basically have to cut yourself off from everything, okay? They've got monopolies are all over the place, which they're not supposed to. I mean, or at least they used to not be able to do that, but they can now. You can't really boycott anything because they got us by the balls 6 ways from Sunday. I mean, you want to talk about boycotting gas when the gas prices go up. Well, everybody's getting the same fucking oil from the same supplier, okay? So if you boycott Citgo and you're still gassing up at Exxon, you're still putting money in their pocket, So it doesn't. There's no way you can actually affect change on a big scale by boycotting companies that support Republicans. I mean, it's impossible. What was it? There was they found out that what company was it there that was supporting Republicans, and they're all for. I'm trying to think of it. There's a whole bunch of them. It was a restaurant or something like that. I can't remember now, but to boycott, one company and thinking that's making a difference, it doesn't matter because they got supply of money coming in from all kinds of places. And, whenever people boycott, as soon as they get over it and they go back and they start eating or buying from these places again, you're basically saying, well, the boycott was for nothing and, we're just going to go back and keep supplying these people with funds so they could turn around and shaft us again when it comes time for elections. You can't win that. A boycott doesn't do anything, and maybe at one time boycotts would, but now that everybody is sort of tied in with companies that are all supporting Republicans, it's very difficult now to find out who isn't donating to the Republican Party. You would, if you were to stake all you own at pointing your finger at something and saying they're donating to the Republican Party, you wouldn't lose your stuff, okay? You wouldn't lose everything you own because you'd be right. So it's very hard today to find out who isn't donating to them. I mean, you've even got some companies out there donating to both Democrats and Republican parties, okay? But you're never going to find somebody who just donates to Democrats, okay? You know, it's very hard to find. And if you can find somebody that does that, you know, it's probably going to be some company you never heard of, you know, somewhere. And it's, you know, that's just how it is. So that's the reason why Republicans always have funding to do things and, you know, money to protect their asses from scandal, is because we as the consumers out there are giving them money when we don't even realize it, okay, by shopping at this store or buying groceries from this store or buying gas from that place, or, you know what I'm saying, or getting our electricity and our internet. You know, all these companies are in cahoots here with the GOP in some way, and it's just, you cannot get away from it. You can't. You know, our money just automatically flows right back into their coffers so they can turn around and use that money against us, you know. And that's the reason why we need to get money out of politics, okay? I know people have been saying that for a long time, but, you know, it's really essential that we do, because as long as that tap is still there for Republicans to turn on, to fill up their pockets, we're going to have a hell of a time keeping Republicans out of government, okay? And that's the reason why they don't want that shut. They don't want money out of politics. They want it there, and they love it there because they're getting rich, and the corporations are getting their way. And at the same time, they're laughing all the way to the bank because the money they're sitting there counting in their hands all came from all of us who are Democrats who don't want these Republicans in office. But yeah, and yet at the same time, when they're even in the minority, they're getting more of the fucking money than the Democrats are. Okay? That's why Republicans are always in control of government, no matter if they're sitting in the minority seat or the majority seat, okay? It doesn't matter, because all the funding, all the resources are going to them from all of us who don't even keep track of where we're spending our money, you know? So people, you really need to, you know, think about that sometime and just wonder, you know, who is donating to who here, you know, and should we be supporting them, you know what I'm saying? It's just something to think about. All right, this is an interesting story here from Huffington Post. It's from Josephine Harvey, entitled, "Lauren Boebert Appears to Pray for Joe Biden's Death in Texas Sermon." Quote, "Let his days be few and another take his office," unquote, the Colorado lawmaker said. Representative Lauren Boebert from Colorado has again appeared to pray for the demise of President Biden. In a sermon streamed by the Storehouse Dallas Church in Texas over the weekend, Boebert preaches politics to attendees, repeating comments that attracted fierce backlash last June. Quote, "Joe Biden's president, we don't know what to do, Lord," unquote, Boebert said. Quote, "It's all right, we pray for our presidents. You know, it says, let his days be few and another take his office," unquote. The audience was heard laughing after the remark. Quote, "That's why I filed articles of impeachment for Joe Biden," unquote, Boebert added. Quote, "Unfortunately, he does have a really great insurance policy named Kamala Harris," unquote. The phrase Boebert referenced is from Psalms 109:8. Through Boebert referenced impeachment, the verse is widely interpreted as a call for the premature death of an enemy. It pops up in right-wing politics from time to time, including in 2016 when Senator David Perdue applied it to President Obama. Boebert referenced the same psalm in June while speaking at a Christian event in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Why are we putting people like her, Lauren Boebert, on podiums in church? Okay, you know, what the hell is that all about anyway? And doesn't that kind of violate some law somewhere where a church, you know, if you're going to be putting politics in your religion, then you need to start paying taxes on your property? I mean, come on, what the hell is this? She goes up there and she says something like that, I mean, which is basically, you know, advocating for the president to die. Isn't there some law against that? You know, I just don't understand how somebody can do something, cross that line. I wouldn't have the balls to go up in front of people and say something like that, knowing I'd be recorded. Okay, I would expect a knock on my door by the feds any day, you know, after saying something like that. But her, you know, and she considers herself some kind of evangelical speaker now. I mean, Jesus Christ, talk about sinking to a new low for this whoever church she's at. Okay, God, and then the people in the audience laughing at it after she says it goes to show you what kind of nuts occupy that cult. Okay, so, you know, this woman is really, she's, and it's like somebody said, you know, she's got a police record, okay, it goes back quite a ways, and she's got a lot of shit on it too. Her and her husband there, and yet, you know, somebody like her gets to stand on an altar and talk shit about some politician that she doesn't like. You know, how the hell is that right? You know, if this, let's just say this was a Democrat representative that went in on a church and said something about a Republican like that, you know goddamn well the Republicans would be screaming bloody murder and for the same reason that I'm talking about this in the same fucking way. Okay? They would be screaming, oh, that church ought to be taxed. Okay? But it's okay when they do it, right? It's okay when they do it, when they talk the dirt and shit like that, when they're the ones slinging the mud on the other side, okay? And people like Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, these folks don't have any conscience at all. They feel free to sit in the fucking State of the Union address and heckle the president while he's trying to talk to people. You know what I told somebody about that? I said, look, you know what the president ought to do next time? He ought to get a chair, put it right next to the podium up on the stage, okay, where he's at when he gives a speech. And the minute Marjorie Taylor Greene or one of these other fucking bandits start to scream and heckle the president, snap his fingers and get the, you know, have somebody escort them down to the front and have them sit there in the chair. If they want to be center attention, hey, this is where you need to be. You want to be the focus of all this, then you sit right up here and do your shit right here. Okay, that's what I do. That's what, hey, that teachers used to do that when I was in school. Okay, when a student would start misbehaving, they'd have a chair next to the desk, and they'd have him sit in the chair in front of everybody, facing everybody. Okay, that's what they ought to do with her, because clearly you got to treat her like a child, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You got to treat her like a fucking child, because that's the way she wants to behave when the president of the United States is talking. You know, you stop that. Oh, shit. That's what you got to do. Nah. You ain't getting even. You stop it. Lay down. You're trying to bite me. So, yeah, that's what you do with somebody like her, is you put her in her place where everybody can see her and, you know, embarrass the shit out of her. And, you know, just that's what you do. And I think the day when the president does that will be the day when you stop hearing people disrespect. Okay, it's one thing to sit in your seat, not applaud or support anything the president says. That's fine. But when while he's talking and you're shouting, and I don't know why they think anybody's going to hear him, but when you're sitting there shouting from way in the back there, you know, trying to distract the cameras away from the president so you can be center attention. And, you know, by all accounts, people were saying she was drunk that night when she was doing that. and the people around her were trying to tell her to shut up, and she wouldn't shut up. Obviously, she was drunk, okay? But the fact is, the president should have had her sit up there, make a spectacle of her, and I guarantee you support for that woman would have dropped significantly that night once he'd have done that to her. That's what he should have done. And I'll tell you right now, anybody that was watching that and saw what happened to her and seeing her, you know, half stewed to the gills, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene wouldn't have been so welcomed in their fucking district anymore, representing them, okay? And I think that's what the president really should have done that night, really. I think he would have done it, and I think everybody would have understood him doing that, and, you know, and the ones that would have bitched about it said, hey, look, if you want the same thing to you, I'll add another 10 chairs up here, and you all can sit up, okay, and look like idiots, you know? But when I'm talking, you shut up and listen. You know, I'm the president, and you don't get it. You don't get to interject, you know, and shout obscenities in here. We're not. This ain't England here, okay? We don't do that shit here. So, you know, when he's talking, you shut up and listen. If you want anything to say, you can wait till after he's done and gone. Then you could say what you want to say, okay? You get your rebuttal time anyway. So, for Marjorie Taylor Greene to sit up there and act the way she did, not only shows how ignorant she is, but it shows how flawed she is as a person. Okay, she's obviously got demons there that she's dealing with in front of everybody and at our cost. Okay, because we're paying her to represent whoever she's representing there. She's taking our money and giving nothing in return but abstraction and distraction, and it's not helping anybody. It's not even helping her, because the more she does it, the less people that like her. I mean, she's just making an ass out of herself. You know, just like George Santos, another one, okay, making an ass of himself. And these people really can't be trusted to hold any office or to be trusted to govern with any responsibility or to be honest about what they're doing, because to them, what the job they're doing is for me and me only. Okay, I'm here for me. You guys, you know, you don't get to have anything because you're not sitting up here. Okay, I'm sitting up here, and what I say goes. You know, that's what they think. Now, whatever school they went to, where they learned this, obviously was a bad school. Okay, because they should have known in 8th grade that, you know, these people in government are working for you. Our tax dollars pay you to do what we want you to do. It's not the other way around. But somehow along the way, a lot of people in government today feel like that that them being there means that they get to say what they want and let their needs overshadow all the other people who voted for them, you know, such as it is. And that's why we can't let Republicans have any control over government right now as they are, because right now the Republican Party is melting down into something that's really dangerous. Okay, they're becoming a dangerous thing, an entity, where we have to kind of wonder now: are they really a viable party to keep around in Washington? I mean, shouldn't we challenge their merits as to how loyal they are to the United States? Should we, you know, give them a history test or some knowledge about the things that they did in America that hurt the country? You know, I think that there's a lot there that we could say, look, you guys have forever been on the side of corporate America, and corporate America doesn't have to be attached to anybody here in this country. They just do business here. And as it is, you guys support them and take their money, okay? And with that money, you're trying to take away Social Security, cut into Medicare and Medicaid. You're trying to get rid of all these things that people rely on. You know, you want to shut down FEMA. You want to get rid of, you know, emergency services to people. You know, you just basically, you know, want to cut everybody off from anything doing with government and let them, you know, manage on their own, which they can't. They can't do it. There's no fucking way they can do it now. Okay, we just don't have any accommodation in America without those systems to be able to survive. It'd be just like living during the Great Depression all over again. You sink or you swim, you fall, you rise on your own. Okay, and if you fall, we're not going to be there to help you. You're just going to become homeless and just another burden on society. Under Republican rule, we would have a very, very different looking America. You know, it looked pretty sad. And, you know, these people, a lot of the people that would be homeless would be Republicans, because a lot of their states, the red states, are always the states that are suffering the most in this country because of Republican policies and Republican legislation. They don't take care of their own, okay? They're too easy to cut them off from everything. I mean, just take a look at the evidence around you about that. You know, it's there. You know, they're not a helpful group of people. And, you know, right now they're fixing to you know, default the country without any hesitation on its debt ceiling. They want to turn us into a deadbeat country. And if they do that, it's not going to just affect America. It's going to affect global economies. All right. And, you know, I don't see why the rest of the world doesn't say, we're not going to let you default. You owe us money, and if you don't pay it, you know, you're going to suffer the consequences, and that means we're coming after you. You know, we'll be declaring war on the United States because you owe us money. And you know, what would we do? What would we do in the place of that? You know, if I had like $10 billion worth of debt and I told everybody, fuck you, I ain't paying it, what do you think's going to happen to me? I'm just going to up and vanish one night, and you're never going to hear from me ever again. You know, if you know what I'm saying? I mean, this country, you know, our nation should never have to go through a period of that where, you know, we're suffering only because certain parts of our political structure want us to suffer that way, want the country to be brought down that way, but they're going to take down the rest of the world with them as they do this. I mean, I can't see how people who think like Donald Trump can resist the temptation to not do that. I honestly can't. I mean, I think they're just, it's a wet dream come true. If they can destroy this country by defaulting us on our loan, this is what they're going to do. You know, there's no reason to say that they ain't going to do it. Okay, I think that unless Biden works some kind of fucking miracle, and I mean a big one, that's what's going to happen to us here later this year. You know, in the summer, whatever. Okay, and it's going to be a bad event, a real bad event. And if it doesn't happen, you're going to have a lot of Republicans at each other's throats over it, because they are hoping, they're crossing their fingers, their legs, their ass, everything else, you know, that they can cross, that this happens. That's what they want. I mean, Jesus, who wishes for their country to fail? You know, who does something like that? Okay, well, we know now. Do you hear any Democrats out there hoping that we default the country? No, because they know better than the Republicans do about how that's going to happen and what the fallout will be. They know better. But boy, you can find Republicans coming out of the woodwork that are going to sit there and say, yeah, we're going to default to get our way, to get what we want. We're going to put it on the fucking chopping block. And they're not going to care what happens to America after that. Even if it hurts their own voters, they're not going to care. How many Republicans do you think that's going to hurt, you know, in the process? It's going to hurt everybody. This isn't a Republican or Democrat issue when it comes to the fallout from defaulting our country on its loans. This is going to be a broad-scale blanket here, you know, to everybody that's in this country living here, okay? Everyone's going to suffer. Everyone. And if the Republican voters are dumb enough to think that's a positive, then hey, I almost wish that it would happen just to them and let them suffer the fucking fallout for being so stupid and arrogant, okay? Because if they think they're suffering now, they ain't seen nothing yet. A lot of these people are going to end up homeless because their jobs are just going to suddenly vanish, okay? It's going to make the recession look like a Sunday picnic in comparison, all right? So, no, we can't default this country on what it owes, okay? What we always did is what we did in the past is raise the debt ceiling, okay? We raised the debt ceiling. And if they think that that's adding to the deficit, then why didn't they bitch about that with Trump when they raised the debt ceiling under him, okay? So let's keep that in mind, that what they're denying or what they want to deny President Biden is something that they were gladly to do under Donald Trump. all right, and that wasn't so long ago. So these people are obviously doing this out of mischievous motivations. They have no honor. They don't care about what it will do to the world by doing this. They only care about how this is going to help them regain power in government, okay? And I don't think that's going to work the way they think it is, because everyone's going to know who's responsible when the debt ceiling isn't raised, because they controlled Congress, okay? You can't blame the Democrats for that, okay? So when that happens, it's not going to be the outcome they're hoping for. It's going to be a big mistake on their part to do that and let it drag out for week after week after month after month. Okay, it's not gonna be a good thing. So, you know, if they want to hang themselves like they seem to always want to do, you gotta feel like these people are like suicidal, the Republican Party, because they want to do all the things that Americans don't want to have done in this country, but they're aiming to do it. It's like, well, if you guys want to destroy your party, why don't you just pull out altogether out of the government and just, you know, dissolve as an entity? You know, don't come back. I mean, if you don't want to be Republicans, or you don't want to sit in government anymore, then go home. Get the hell out. If you don't want to do your work, if you're just in there to vandalize and destroy, then please, get out. We don't need you there, okay? If you're right about what you say, that if Democrats controlled everything, the country will fall, then what's the difference if we do it or you do it? Okay? The fact is, why don't you just go home and wait for the inevitability of what you think is going to happen, okay? If you think that's what's going to happen, then please go home and stay there. It will happen, and then you can clap and applaud when it does, and then say you were right all along, okay? So why don't you just get the fuck out of government and go home, you know? Jesus. I mean, I've never seen people to be so, you know, two-faced about things in all my life as that party there. They tell you one thing, do exactly the opposite. Okay, and then they tell you the other side did it. Okay, and you know that kind of shit is getting old really fast. Okay, we're really sick and tired of hearing the name Republican being linked to every problem that this country's got. We really are, because, you know, until we can cut them out of the equation, literally cut them out of the equation in government, we're never going to really have an America that we can generally be proud of. Okay, we're always going to be at odds with each other over what this country is supposed to be, and we know what it should be, but the Republicans are hell-bent on steering us away from it. Okay, they're so afraid of what America could become that they cannot allow that to happen. They can't. And that's why I say they're not there for us, they're there for themselves. Their agenda is always for themselves. No matter what they tell you they want to do, believe the opposite, okay? They're going to lie to you first when they want a seat in power, okay? And then they're going to get in there and do exactly the opposite. That's what you can always expect. So, okay, that's it for today. I hope everybody had a great weekend, and I hope you have a good work week coming up here starting tomorrow. Please keep your ears open for any COVID-19 news, and subscribe and comment so I can, you know, get some questions. I like to get questions here about things, and I hope everybody has learned something about treating each other nice. We're going to need that in days to come, you know, as we try and live the 2 years of the Republicans controlling Congress. You know, it's not going to be an easy task for all of us. Okay, so I hope we can manage here. But being kind to each other is always a good step in the right direction, and it can have a ripple effect. So I will talk to you all later, and take care.